Eat small, eat local, eat wild. It will work. And then along comes climate change, which can literally undo everything that's going on with the oceans. You've heard from John, a scientist, but briefly, what I know is that climate change is warming our waters. That means our coral reefs are dying because they can't keep up with the changing temperature. It means that ocean acidification is attacking the bottom of the food chain. It means that the fish you were catching off your coast all of a sudden are swimming 500 miles north or south, finding cold water that they can survive in. Sea level rise because of climate change. So many things that you all know about are happening to our oceans. So, that's why I'm here. But I want to go back to Jane for a second. I turned 70 about well, I'm almost 72, let me put it that way.
Yay!
But when I turned 70, I thought, okay, it's time to rest on my laurels. I'm Ted Danson, I saved the planet. Cheers, I mean, come on. I'm 70, I need to slow down and relax and enjoy. And then I met Jane Fonda, who had her foot on the gas pedal. And was not only 80, she was going 80 miles an hour at all times. My wife, Mary Steenburgen, was working with her on a film. They'd work 14-hour days, then Jane would get on a bus and drive to Sacramento to fight for service industry fair wages. She'd bring 50 people with them, drive back down. Then she'd do a fundraiser to flip the 48 or whatever. You know, she's astounding. So, she became my mentor. And here I am. Here I am about to get arrested. You know, at first it was like, yeah, of course I'll come get arrested. How cool is that? And then I went, wait a minute, I'm going to get arrested. And it focuses your brain a little bit. So here's what I realized. All of this is inconvenient. It's inconvenient. Al Gore got it right. This is inconvenient. It's inconvenient for politicians to stop taking money from the oil industry.
Yeah.
It's huge money they get. It's easy. All you have to do is deny science and say that there's no such thing as climate change. Easy. It's inconvenient for the oil industry to not drill wherever and whenever they want, because it's huge money. It's inconvenient for industries to stop burning fossil fuels. It's inconvenient for all of us to realize that we have to share the planet's natural resources with everyone, including people we don't like. It's inconvenient to realize that we are all in this together, that either we will all make it or none of us will make it.
Yeah.
It's very inconvenient. I also want to thank Greta. Our house is on fire. And it's time that we stop standing around complaining that it's not convenient to change our ways. It's time to start behaving like we care about our children and our grandchildren. Hey, we can do this. We really can. It may be a little inconvenient, but it's not as inconvenient as fires and floods and mass migration and droughts and starvation. That's inconvenient. So, come on down. Get arrested. Get your head on straight. Thank you.
Right, this is not a time for business as usual, right?
Right.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Jacquet. She is an assistant professor of environmental studies at NYU. She was formerly a postdoctorate researcher at the Fisheries Center, Department of Mathematics, University of British Columbia, where she also did her PhD. Jennifer works at the intersection of conservation, cooperation, and technology with an emphasis on, dig this, evolution, function, and the future of shame. Her areas of research and interest include marine ecology, conservation, and evolutionary biology, cooperation, social approval. This is one interesting babe. The evolution and function of guilt. Oh, man, you got your hands full. Wow. Honor and shame. And the role of information technology in shaping environmental action, which falls under a broad interest in what she calls, the tragedy of the commons. Yeah. Please welcome Jennifer Jacquet.
It's a little inconvenient to follow Ted Danson and Jane Fonda. I am not used to that. I don't have my lines memorized. Oh, louder? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here today, and thank you, Jane Fonda, for your activism through the years, and particularly right now. We need everyone in this fight. Climate change is the most urgent environmental problem facing the world, but it's also worth remembering it's not the first or only one. The global impact of industrial societies began in the oceans, with the decimation of the great whales, and then moved along at a neck-break pace toward all the other problems like pollution, deforestation, overfishing, etc. In every case, the oceans have been impacted. In the case of climate change, we humans have not actually experienced the full impacts of climate change because the oceans have cleaned up a lot of the mess for us. As John mentioned, they've absorbed roughly 30% of our emissions since the Industrial Revolution, and scientists are worried that this trend might not continue. We have not fully appreciated the role of the oceans and what they have done for us, but the animals in the oceans have certainly experienced the warming waters, the higher prevalence of disease, and the lowering of the pH that's occurring as the oceans become more acidic with additional carbon dioxide. Living coral cover around the world has decreased by at least a third, and in some places 2/3. And scientists have shown that fish are moving toward the poles, both north and south, at a rate of 26 kilometers per decade. Large numbers of fish will disappear from the tropics by 2050. Some say the movement of fish represents opportunities for fisheries in the Arctic, and some worry about the future geopolitical conflicts over these fish. They speak about these animals merely as resources, instead of considering that this is nature sending us a sign. Corals are bleaching and fish are moving because we have made their world uninhabitable. They are seeking out the old days. Fish are moving to breathe. Climate change is just one threat to aquatic animals. The largest threat is still direct exploitation, the global fishing industry. Aquatic animals are the last wild animals hunted at the global scale for food. There are at least 1 trillion fish killed every year by fisheries, and that's to say nothing of invertebrates. This data about 1 trillion, what does that number even mean, is really rough because we don't even think about these animals as individuals. We don't think about them as species, we think about them as seafood. John Hocevar made the case for marine protected areas, and they have to be part of our future. But we also have to scale back the fishing effort and take boats off the water. There is no standard of ethics that can justify the boat known to some as the Atlantic Dawn, the largest industrial fishing boat on the planet. Factory fishing has to end. It's always tempting to see technology as both the problem and the solution. The same engineering that led to coal factories and utility companies and bottom trawling boats can lead us toward a better future. But we know we cannot count on technology alone. There was a film made in the 1960s that depicted the office of the future, and it was right about all sorts of technology in the office of the future. It got even fax machines right. But there were no women in the office. What we care about can change as fast as our hardware. As the historian Lynn White wrote in 1967, What people do about their ecology depends on what they think about themselves in relation to things around them. We need a revolution in our relationship with the planet.
Is that a mirrorless camera?
Yeah, it's an A7 III.
So it looks like he's the
audience can hear.
It's not about a specific policy like the high-speed moon protected area or reducing fishing efforts or the Green Museum. We want all of those things. But fundamentally, we want a new relationship with animals and the environment on land and in the oceans. We want a new set of values.
Now I understand all those things you study and write about. Beautiful. Our next speaker is Denise Patel. She is a New York City-based human rights and environmental activist. Her personal and professional work has focused on grassroots organizing, building coalitions, and leading advocacy campaigns to address occupational and environmental health impacts of climate change and toxic chemicals. She's previously worked for organizations such as the New Jersey Work Environment Council and has been a leader in the fossil fuel divestment movement, working with the Divest Invest Network, with 350.org and the People's Climate Movement New York. Denise holds a Master's of Public Health from Columbia University with a focus on health and climate. Please welcome Denise Patel.
Thank you so much, Jane. I was speaking with Jane yesterday, and I was noting that I actually started my activism as a student on college campuses. And if you told me 20 years ago that I would be arrested one day with Jane Fonda, I would have been like, oh, that's nuts, that's never gonna happen, but here we are. So I really am grateful for this opportunity to talk about oceans and to really connect it to the work that I do, dealing with the fossil fuel industry and with toxic chemicals. I'm here today because we know that our oceans, our planet, and all of us are in peril. Not only are our oceans dying because of climate change, but they are being polluted with plastic by the same industries that put us on this path of destruction towards climate change. And we know that they have no intention of changing their ways, and to blame us as individuals for the problem that they have created. All of the plastic that ends up in the ocean starts with the fossil fuel industry. It starts at the oil wells and the fracking sites where fossil fuels are extracted and pulled out of the ground, polluting our communities, the air and the water, and creating incredible, enormous health impacts on the people who live around them. Where the oil and gas is then shipped via pipes to manufacturing facilities, it's releasing more toxic chemicals and greenhouse gases along the entire way, causing things like asthma and heart disease and cancers. And we, as good citizens, put our plastics in the recycle bin and think that we're doing our part to save the planet. But in reality, 8.3 billion tons of plastic that has ever been produced, of all of that, 91% of it has never been recycled. Most of it ends up in landfills and in incinerators where it is burned, releasing more greenhouse gas emissions and toxics that pollute the air and the water and harm our health, where it ends up in the oceans where it hurts sea turtles and whales and all of the life-sustaining systems that we've heard about today. And further, as plastics continue to break down, they release even more greenhouse gas emissions. So the problem with plastic really is a problem that we need to address if we're going to address climate change. All of this destruction for a product that we use one time for 5 minutes and it lasts forever. All of the plastic that is being pushed on us by the fossil fuel industry, BP has said that it expects 70% of its future revenues to come from plastics. Exxon, who went into court this week in New York for deceiving their shareholders about the risks of climate change on their business model, and testified in Congress that they knew their business model would cause irreversible change to the climate. And in addition to that, led an effort to deceive and to deny climate change. They're just planning more of the same.
Right.
We know that if they are successful, plastic production alone will account for 15% of the remaining carbon budget that we have from now until 2050. And we know that it's going to kill our oceans. But we also know that we can solve this problem. 50% of all of the plastic that has ever been produced was in just the last 15 years, along with the fracking boom. But it's not just the fossil fuel companies that are to blame. For the second year in a row, our movement, the Break Free from Plastic, audited all of the brands that we found that are littering our waterways, our oceans, our beaches, our parks. And we found for the second year in a row that Coca-Cola was the biggest plastic polluter in the world. Along with Coke, Nestle, Pepsi, and Unilever continue to rank near the top. But these companies actually have a choice to make. They can choose to change their ways, or they can choose to be like the fossil fuel companies. And I don't think Coca-Cola wants to be like Exxon. So we're calling on Coke and Nestle and Pepsi and Unilever and all of those companies to join the Break Free from Plastic movement to set targets that are going to phase out single-use plastic. We want them to invest in refillables and reusables. You used to be able to buy a bottle of Coke in a glass bottle and return that. You can't do that anymore. We need these corporations to take a stand to stop the climate crisis and to protect our oceans and our health. We're also calling on our elected leaders at the state, local, and national level to enact a Green New Deal. We need a just transition that moves us away from dirty, polluting industries and onto a pathway that will decarbonize our society and create millions of jobs with renewables, regenerative agriculture, and by going zero waste. We need a Green New Deal that centers the needs of communities and workers that have been most harmed by these industries and by the climate, and put those at the center point and help guide us. And we are calling on all of you to join us in the streets and on Election Day to push our elected leaders to stand up for the fossil fuel and stand up against the fossil fuel and plastics industry. And we want you all to vote. Vote for the people that are going to hold them accountable and put us on a pathway that ends the climate crisis. We know the story of plastic is a story about all of us, but in reality, it's being written by the fossil fuel industry, and it's our opportunity now to change that. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. You know, I grew up before there was plastic. There was a time when there was no plastic. And guess what? We did just fine. We were just fine. Our next and last speaker is Whitney Crowder. She's a sea turtle rehabilitation coordinator at Gumbo Limbo Nature Center. Whitney came... What is that word? Oh yes, all the way. Whitney came all the way from Florida today. Well, I came from California. No, she did. She came all the way, and the people she works for weren't quite sure what it meant, and they didn't want her to get arrested. But she's here, and we're so grateful. She's going to talk about what she sees happening to sea turtles. Please welcome Whitney.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. This is truly an honor to be here. Okay. Ever since I was a little girl, I've wanted to be a voice for animals because they don't have one for themselves. Throughout my career, I've seen firsthand the crisis of our oceans. I've been in the environmental field for over 15 years and have dedicated my life to saving sea turtles. Sea turtles are dying in record numbers, and it is directly because of us. Tiny turtles are eating so much plastic that they are starving to death. Stop and think about that for a minute. In one dead baby sea turtle, we found over 104 pieces of plastic in its stomach. After sharing a photo of that on social media, it went viral. It was reported all around the world. I had no idea how impactful this photo would become. I see what we are doing to the oceans every day. I've become desensitized because it's the only way I can cope with a harsh reality. But the fact that this photo has resonated with people all over the world gives me hope. Hope that the millions of people who saw the reality facing young sea turtles will help to bring real change. I've seen more injuries from boats than I can count. These injuries are often fatal or leave turtles exposed, or their organs exposed with missing limbs. Sea turtles can get entangled in things like discarded fishing nets, making it impossible for them to swim. They are drowning, weighed down by our trash. I have seen sea turtles entangled so severe that they are flipperless and unable to swim. Marine life are plagued by diseases related to environmental degradation. Sea turtles are suffering from a disease that causes tumors to cover their bodies, including their eyes and their flippers, causing them to be blind and have difficulty swimming. This debilitating disease is becoming more and more common every year, and all of this I've seen firsthand. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The most alarming thing that I've seen continues to be the excessive amount of plastic found in our very young sea turtles. These newly hatched palm-sized sea turtles live out in the open ocean. They find habitat in the floating seaweed, which is essentially a magnet for floating things like plastic. Every year, due to strong winds, hundreds of these little sea turtles are washed back to shore along our Florida coastlines, and many of them die. This year, we have found 100% of our dead washback sea turtles with stomachs full of plastic. Every turtle is filled with plastic. We now know plastic is found from the surface of our oceans all the way to the seafloor. This is a crisis worldwide. Sea turtles face a multitude of man-made obstacles every day. All of these injuries can be heartbreaking to see, difficult to nurse back to health, and devastating to lose the ones we worked so hard to save. Even if we heal their injuries and release them back to their ocean home, this doesn't mean they're safe. They face the same threats that caused them to get sick or injured in the first place. I have had people ask me, why care about sea turtles? Why are they even important? Well, here's why. Sea turtles have been around for over 100 million years and survived the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. Losing sea turtles would create a cascade of disruption in our oceans that we may never recover from. Sea turtles are an indicator of the health of our oceans. Without healthy oceans, life on Earth cannot exist. We have the power to turn this around, and I think that we can, because the future of our children will depend on the actions we take right now. I recently joined Ted Danson and John Hocevar in a documentary, Troubled Waters, A Turtle's Tale, and one word stuck out more than anything to me in the film: refuse. It is no longer reduce, reuse, or recycle. It's simply refuse. Refuse the plastic to-go cups, refuse the plastic containers, refuse the plastic straws, just refuse. We must refuse to accept the mindless use of plastic to start to transform the role that plastic plays in our society. Who knew that one word could be so powerful, especially when spelled out with the plastics from the stomachs of tiny turtles? All of this plastic was found in this one tiny turtle. Our oceans can't wait. I never felt like we were running out of time to make a change until now. These fire drills began to bring awareness to our climate crisis. In 2003, OSHA Gray Davison warned us that there was a fire in the turtle's house, and we have watched it continue to burn for 16 years. That can end today. The sea turtles are warning us now that they are in trouble, and so are we. Is it possible that by saving the sea turtles, we can save ourselves as well? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. In closing, I just want to remind everybody, this is the epiphany that I had about 4 months ago, largely because of Greta Thunberg, I might add. Individual lifestyle choices like not using single-use plastic and cutting back on our red meat and recycling and driving hybrid or electric cars, these are all very important. But you know what? We cannot scale individual lifestyle choices fast enough to get us where we need to be in 11 years. We can't do it. And that is why even the scientists, the nerdy, usually neutral scientists, sorry, John, are saying that they believe now that the only way that we are going to change course in time is with mass mobilization of people on an unprecedented scale. So, anytime you have an opportunity to go into the streets, do it.
Yes.
If you live near a place where they're trying to start a new extractive infrastructure in fossil fuels, put your body on the line. Put yourself on the line, especially us grandmas. What the hell do we have to lose, right? When I see those young people, those students out there protesting and demanding that we help them have a future, I'm thinking, how can we let them do this by themselves? They didn't cause this problem, neither did we, by the way. The fossil fuel industry wants us to think it's our fault. Bullshit. They lied to us, they hoodwinked us, they cheated on the science, they kept it from us. They tell us they're doing one thing when they do another. Even now, they're criminals. And we need to change this. And we're subsidizing them $16 billion a year. Our taxpayers' money goes to subsidize fossil fuel. Most of it wouldn't even be profitable without our taxes to subsidize them. Okay, so let's do it. Every Friday we're going to be here. We're going to join the young people when they have a demonstration. Thursday nights at 7 we have a live stream digital teach-in because these are complicated issues and we want to go deeper. The other Thursday, 35,000 people watched us. All over the world, people were tuning in to find out about the Green New Deal and about oceans. Makes me hopeful. So please join us when you can. Stay brave. This is not a time for business as usual. And God bless. Thanks for being here.
So you all want to gather for a little around to the front of the line. I'll do it now. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me, folks. I need to get this out.
Absolutely. Get the rabbi through. Please.
Just want to let you know we're live, so the mic is
Oh, okay. Be careful.
yes.
So we're live here at the Fire Drill Fridays. The focus this week are the oceans. I don't know about you, but I was super moved by a lot of what we heard tonight, this morning. Not just the idea that this isn't business as usual, we know that, but that this is really a matter of changing our relationship to the natural world and to one another. And I hadn't really thought oceans was really my issue exactly, but we have to get over what's our issue and what's not. And when I think about it, I love to swim in oceans. One can be in an ocean. How much pleasure have you gotten from an ocean? I've gotten a lot. So when I heard the woman talk about it's about our relationship, I realized actually I really love oceans. And the waters that I've swum in have really sustained me. So I think I'm going to go get arrested because we do have to put our bodies on the line and our actions have to reflect our words. So no more plastic straws for me, no more plastic bags, and let's go join Ted and Jane on the steps. Stay watching. It's the Laura Flanders Show. Thanks.
So as you guys heard, they are planning an arrest to get arrested. So we're going to just follow as this thing happens. In a little bit, we're going to have Matt come and talk. How you doing? I'm going to try to interview some people too and see. like How are you? Can I highlight you for a second?
Oh gosh, I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
You don't want to tell everyone why you
I'm one of those people. I'd rather record people talking.
really?
Were you with?
Huh?
Were you with?
The Laura Flanders show.
Okay.
Laura Flanders. Yes, she was. That lady kind of sitting in front with the mic. Hold it up. Yeah. And I work. I don't know if you know Status Quo. All right, so we got people out here talking. Want to see why is today's demonstration so important? So I'm going to get an older lady. How are you? Do you mind? I wanted to ask why, for you, the demonstration is so important today with everyone getting arrested.
Well, anyone who has children or grandchildren. Okay. Well, anyone who has children or grandchildren needs to be worried about this because we're running out of time to deal with food, water, clean air. The bottom of the food chain, like my sign shows, says the krill are like the bees of the ocean. Everything on up the food chain depends on them, and same thing with the bees. We won't survive very long if the bees go. I can't
Do you
think.
plan on getting arrested today?
No.
No?
No.
What's your name?
Stephanie Larson.
Stephanie Larson. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want
And
to
you're with-
interview people?
you're with-
The Laura Flanders Show.
The what?
Laura Flanders Show.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I do work for Status Quo. Do you want to?
So I'm gonna.
You want to interview?
We're
people?
going right now for them to get arrested.
Do you want to interview people?
No, because they're about to get arrested. I have to film them get arrested. Right?
Okay. Absolutely. We're live.
Oh, you mean like? Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
I'm just talking about like walking and talking. It's okay. I'll do it. How are you guys doing? Tell me, why is today's demonstration important to you?
Well, I'm just really concerned about the future of my generation and of children. I'm going to be a pediatrician, and I really have been learning a lot about the health impacts of climate change, and so that's why I'm here today.
I heard that. Are you planning on getting arrested?
I am not today. Yes.
Thank you. What's your name?
Sarah Shear.
Sarah Shear. Thank you so much. So, Sarah, a lot of people out here supporting Laura, Jane, and other people that's going to be getting arrested. There you go. So these, I'm not sure how many. Right, is it? I think it's about maybe 10 people that's planning to get arrested today. I think so. And so this is to bring more of a sense of urgency to climate change. And Jane Fonda, you can see she's with a few other actors and activists.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now. When do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. Yeah!
I need you to get out of the way, okay? Oh, you're security. Oh, I'm sorry.
Stay in the front. He's security.
Sorry.
Well, there's a reason behind it.
Who's air? Say our air. Who's air? Our air. Who's children?
Keep going.
Whose climate?
Our climate.
Whose future?
Whose future?
Whose air?
Our air.
Whose climate?
Our climate.
Yeah! I want the whole of Congress to hear us. Say yeah!
Yeah!
There you go.
Keep moving them back.
Don't let them get to you, bro. That was for a reason. All right.
What do we want? The Green New Deal. What do we want?
Green New Deal.
What do we want?
Now.
What do we want?
Green New Deal.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Green New Deal.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Green New Deal.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Green New Deal.
When do we want it?
Now.
Yeah!
So it seems like there's a lot of people. The police is getting set up right now. And we'll just keep our eye on them.
Yes. Hey, what's going on?
Sir, you got staff ID? Sir, with staff ID, come on. Sir, do you have a staff ID?
Okay, thank you.
They're not gonna allow people to cross without staff ID, so they're trying to block it right now. They don't want them to go to the Capitol. Okay.
Can't come in this area here. Press only. Staff only.
You gotta be on this side. If you do not have a congressional pass, you gotta be on this side. Staff only, you gotta be on this side of the Balliards. If you do not have a congressional pass, you have to be on this side of the Balliards. If you do not have a congressional ID, you have to be on this side of the Balliards.
Okay,
This side of the what?
Balliards.
They just made that up right now.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Balliards.
What a protest looks like.
This is what a protest looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy sounds like.
This is what democracy.
So right now, the police they made a fake barrier, so now no one can go across this barrier, this water for some reason. They just did that right now. So they need a reason to arrest people. So I'm gonna keep my camera on them to keep them in line. So now there's a line of them. There's no more pillars. I don't see any more pillars. Is there individual? Is y'all the line right here? If you cross y'all. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm understood. I know y'all like
Who has the
to arrest
power?
black
When I say
people.
who has the power, you say the people. Who has the power? 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 The people. Yeah!
All right. I'm just keep an eye on them.
They don't act, vote them out. If 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 they don't act, vote them out. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy Luckily, I have more chances to do this. Thank you for being here.
Media folks, we are going to be walking straight back, so please take a couple steps back so we have room to move. Please take a couple steps back so we have room to move.
Vote, speak, act. 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 Yeah!
Trying to get an idea of the
Excuse me.
Stand up, fight back. Stand up, fight back.
Are rising, and so are we. The
Oceans are rising,
and so are we. The oceans are rising, and so are we. The oceans are rising, and so are we. The oceans are rising, and so are we. The oceans are rising, and so are we. The oceans are rising, and so are we. The oceans are rising, and so are we.
They're chanting, the oceans are rising and so are we, which is the people rising up against fossil fuel energy companies to combat climate change. So I'm going to talk to some more people about why is it important for everyone to be out here today?
I mean, it's our future. It's the next generation. It's the fact that we didn't do anything to make this happen, and they're not doing anything to change it. This is my British roommate.
Hey, British
Hi.
Tell me why.
This is the future of our planet. Our kids could experience this. We need to make the difference for them.
Like 11 years.
Yeah.
Wow. You know they're getting arrested today?
Yeah.
How y'all feel about that?
We actually, so since she's from England, I'm not going to get her arrested, but I plan on coming back and checking that line in the box for sure.
I heard that.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Shannon.
Shannon?
Claire. Claire.
Claire. Oh, the accent.
The British
Ah,
accent, yeah.
sure. Thank
What
you
are
so
you guys
much.
filming for?
This is the Laura Flanders show. You can check us out online. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And check out Status Quo as well. Like a coup d'etat to Status Quo.
Is that your show?
You from Greenpeace? Yeah. So tell me why is it important? I'm gonna block you out of it, okay? Tell me why it's important to be out here. Oh, you guys aren't. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. I see if you'd have put me up on game, then I would have stopped bugging me. You ain't trying to let me know. You just said you couldn't talk. Oh, okay, for sure. See, that's all I need. Now you ain't got to worry about me bothering you no more.
Yeah.
For sure. What's your name?
I'm Lauren.
Lauren, I'm Ty, Lauren.
Ty.
Nice to meet you. All right. Why is it important to be here today?
I feel like our elected officials are doing nothing to stop climate change, and yet it's an existential threat. And now is the last moment. Now is the 11th hour for us to take action.
Plan on getting arrested?
I'm not going to get arrested today. Not again.
Thank you. She got a sign that said it's the 11th hour, and we have no time. Are you getting arrested today? Nah. But that's great. You need the people that's getting arrested. You need the people that's supporting the people that's getting arrested. So you need both. I'm obviously joking. And it's great to see all these people out here supporting. Take it to the streets, take it to the polls. That's what they're yelling. Take it to the streets, take it to the polls. Take it to the polls. They said take it to the streets. They better get out here in these streets. Come on, taking it to the streets. See if I can. Wow. Tell me, why is it important for people to be out here today?
It's important for people to know what's going on and to understand the issues and to fight for change.
Why are you out here?
I'm out here covering it just like you.
Oh, okay. What's your name?
Mom, move this way. Mom.
Why is it important to be out here, bro?
Rising, so are we. The oceans are rising. So are we. The oceans are rising.
It's an asset. Asset to America. Green New Deal. Why is it important to be out here today? Why is it important to be out here today?
Grandchildren. For our grandchildren and for our future. They have no idea and they don't believe it.
I think she pretty well summed it up. Thanks.
So people are out here for a lot of different reasons. Can I ask you a question? The Laura Flanders Show?
Sorry, what's that?
The Laura Flanders Show? It's a progressive online news.
I haven't heard of it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So you get that a lot. People that haven't heard of different shows, they will not talk to them. So I know this guy. He started the Green People.
Frank, good to meet you, man.
What's up, Flair?
Hey, good to see
I work
you
with
again.
Jordan. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. How you doing, man?
Doing
So,
well.
tell me why is it important for you to be out here?
Yeah, for sure.
Hold it,
So,
hold it.
okay.
Give it all to
Cool.
me.
Yeah. So, I mean, the climate crisis is just enveloping the world. You know, like we have been out, we've done permitted protests, we have called the offices, we've done everything we're told we're supposed to make change in a democratic society. None of it's worked, so we got to resort to civil disobedience. So here we are taking the streets. You know, it's 2 degrees. Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me how urgent is like the severity. I know they're getting arrested today because of that urgency. Like, how should people be feeling moving forward, like day to day? Like, this is real. You know,
Yeah.
we need to act now. Like 11 years is too long.
It is too long. Look, the climate crisis is having impacts now. Right now, while we're speaking, there's much stronger wildfires, and we're having routine blackouts in the United States of America and in one of the richest parts of the country in California. You know, so this is a crisis that affects everyone. We saw the devastation in Puerto Rico, in Florida. We've seen it in the Bahamas, throughout the Caribbean, of increased storms as well. You know, we have a country that has moved its capital as a result of the climate crisis. We have 1 million species out of about 8 million on Earth who are predicted to go extinct. You know, so this is an enormous crisis. 2-degree warming is what we're heading for, and that is going to provoke a number of different feedback loops that have been provoked before in human history. They're going to take us even beyond to 4, 5, maybe even higher, and that's catastrophic. That means that our entire agricultural system is going to collapse if that happens.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
For sure.
Good seeing you again, man.
right. See you soon.
All right. Hey, feels got to go. So we're chanting right now. We got the police here. He has a camera.
Excuse me. Present. Elaborate. We're in an election year. People are running. This usual moment. What do you mean?
Well, we only have 11 years left. I don't know. For behaving